Hey everybody, Mr. Gordon here. Continuation of our Tinkercad tutorials. Last week you created the CO2 car blank, which is what you see in front of you here. If you didn't do that yet, you should go back and watch that video before you do this one. This is going to show you how to use some of these tools to cut away components so that you can start to design the car following what you had created for your final design. Tinkercad's not the perfect tool. It can be a little bit frustrating, but overall, it's good, and we can do it online, and it's relative to what we would have been doing if we were in class. And I had previously mentioned that there's a potential next year we could fire up the 3D printer and actually print off one of your cars. Now, I want to show you one of the things you might want to do when you're getting started is create a copy of your CO2 car blank, and you can do that by clicking on this gear up in the right hand corner and clicking on the duplicate tab. That way, if you get into trouble and you really mess up your project, you can go back and have a blank CO2 car slate to work from, so you don't end up having to redraw these components. As I was grading these, I saw some of you had this line, like I have in my document, and some of you did not. And the reason for that is if they didn't match up perfectly, you're going to have that line there. If you did get it to line up, then that line's not there. It doesn't matter to me, one way or the other, as long as you're close. That's good enough for this exercise. But that's why that remaining line is there. Now, as far as today goes, all of your cars are going to look a little bit different. I don't really care what it is that you do. We're going to be somewhat limited based on the shapes that we have available, but we should be able to do some neat things to get a good design. So one of the things you're going to have to know is, again, our navigating here. If I push down on the right mouse button, I can orbit around in space. And if I scroll up or down, I can zoom in and out to my model. Yeah. So what I want to start out today is showing you how to use the work plane tab to select a surface to work on. So I'm going to do my side view cutout first. So I'm going to click on my work plane, and then I'm going to identify that surface. That's going to allow me to place shapes here. If I didn't have that identified as my work plane, I wouldn't be able to do anything on that surface. So we've got these shapes over here, and we can cut material away from our car using some of these pieces. So I'm going to take a box, and I'm going to set it up here on my model. And cutting away is easy because it doesn't have to be flush with the front or the back of the car. It just has to extend beyond the piece that you want it to cut out. So if I'm trying to remove this piece of material right here, my box can extend out on both sides. And when I group these things together, what's going to happen is it's going to change the view. You're not going to see this big cube. All you're going to see is our original shape, and there's going to be a section cut out. So to group the objects, I have to drag a window over all of the shapes, and I click on the group button. And now you can see that it's grouped those things, and it's essentially cut away some of the material from my CO2 car blank. You can use the box. You can use the cylinder if you wanted to do some kind of a round shape. You could do a triangle here. There's the round roof. So from the side, you're going to work from one side or the other. Make sure you identify the work plane. Maybe I want to put a semicircle in there. Now, when I drag this, it puts it on the side. I can rotate this around. So I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees, and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees this way. And we're going to have to rotate it one more. All right. So say I wanted to do something with this, making a round over. You can drag the size to make it different. You can drag the shape to a different place. So say I don't like that sharp curve. I'm going to take this round and I'm going to move it up here. Now to make it remove material, you just come up to where it says the hole, and then extend that shape through the car. Let's see if we can get this to work. All right, so now that I've dragged it through, it's set for the hole. If I zoom out and drag my box over the entire thing and group my objects, we can go back and see what it looks like. I don't think that's the result I was looking for, but you can see how it removed some of the material. Now, the nice thing about using different shapes and grouping them is that they're always still there. So I don't really like how that turned out. So I can go back and I can ungroup my object, and there's the shape right there. I can take that and I can delete it. So if I come here, select just that component, I can delete that piece. If I wanted to delete that other piece, I come back here, I ungroup those. There's that box. I could delete, whoop, it deleted everything. You can use the undo tool. Make sure when you're clicking delete, you only have the shape that you're trying to get rid of. Delete that one, and I'm back to the original block. All right, so play around with the tools and the shapes on the side. Like I said, it's not going to be perfect, but as far as cutting from the top view, because the top view is at an angled plane, I would actually recommend cutting from the bottom of the car because that's flat, and that means that your shape is going to extrude straight through. So I'm just going to do a quick example here. We're going to try to round off the front of our car. So I'm going to grab that round tool again, and just evaluating our different options here, folks. I'm not sure that this is going to do what we want. This is going to give us the negative version. And we cut that away. I'm just thinking out loud here. Your best option might be to use the triangle piece and add that on to the front to give it a pointed nose. Say we wanted to shrink the overall length of our car. We could simply do that by dragging this back. All right, and then let's add a pointed wedge to the front. So I'm going to have to rotate this 180 degrees. So if I can look at this from the side, I want to flip this around. And all right, now I could add that component to the front of the CO2 car to give it, a more aerodynamic shape. My plan for you guys is to give you a couple weeks to play around with this. Again, I know it's not going to be perfect, but I think that if we work at it, you should be able to get something that resembles, a CO2 car. It might not follow your final design perfectly, but it should be, something more than the CO2 car blank. So I want you to play around with this a little bit, see what you can do. Email me questions, but following the basic principles, you grab a block, you make it the appropriate size. If you want to cut material away, you just transfer that to the hole tool. You group the objects. You can use part of the block. So here, if we extend this through, um, if you wanted to cut a piece out from underneath, just select the hole tool. It would cut that little piece out from underneath. So play around with this, guys. See what you can do. Let me know what questions you have, and if I need to, I'll put out another tutorial in the future. But good luck, and email me with any questions. Take care.